Hello. Welcome to ICF Converge 2021. My name is Alina Menon, and I'm joined in by two more of my colleagues. The three of us master coaches here are following the develop track for this program. And our topic is far apart, yet close together. Succeeding in online training. Let me have the opportunity of introducing my co-speakers. First, Dr. Ben Ko. Dr. Ben is going to lead the presentation at the beginning, followed by Sarah. Dr. Ben is from Singapore, Sarah is from New Zealand, and then me, Alina. I am from India. So we from two different continents here, are here to talk to you about succeeding in online learning. May I welcome Dr. Ben Ko, please?
Well, thank you, Alina, for the great introductions. So I would like to begin with this simple slide, and that's to get the elephant out of the room first. Okay, so there are two things that I like to say about online training. Okay, that's number one. Whether you like it or not, online training is here to stay. Okay, the pandemic has totally opened up a new behavior. You know, I'm totally surprised last year when I noticed there's so many people queuing up, taking food order to be delivered to home. And while my wife is away for the last 4 weeks, back to her hometown to visit her mother-in-law, guess what? We just simply order the food, online and have that delivered to our house. So, you like it or not like it, you must be prepared for an online learning, even though that people still prefer in-person training. There will be a new market. And as a business, from a business perspective, you want to be able to tap into this emerging market to make your offering to this new audience. Number two, while the principles on how to engage the students are relatively the same, whether you're doing online training or in-person training, what I think needs your attention is that you need to know what is it that you need to pay more attention to when you're delivering online training. Now, I'm going to stop the screen sharing here because I'm going to talk to you with I'm going to use an analogy to get my point across. Now, how many of you enjoy watching a drama theater? Great. So if you like it, you'll understand why I'm using this analogy. I want to compare these two things together. One is movie, and another one is a drama theater. Now, as an actor, if I am doing a film right now, I know that the camera is looking directly at me, and I don't need to do exaggerated behavior to show a certain expression. If I want to cry, I want to show sadness and to allow the audience to know that I'm in pain. I don't have to do dramatic behavior to get the audience attention. All I need is to be able to squeeze out a little bit of teardrop from here. Okay, so it's that minor details that I need to pay attention to when I'm doing a movie. However, if I want to express that emotions in a drama theater where the audience is sitting, and the audience is looking at me and they're watching me doing it live, I had to exaggerate, my emotions in order for them to able to feel it. Now, if I squeeze out a teardrop that's coming down from my eye here, they will not be able to see it. Well, unless you have a big screen projection, to capture that. But if not otherwise, the audience expect you some dramatic action. Okay. So the point is here, both in-person and online training, we need to engage our students. The principles are relatively the same, but it is what you need to pay attention in online training that will allow you to succeed in creating a successful online engagement. I firmly believe that we can't engage our students both in person and online. And right now, I want to share with you a video clip of what we do here, with a group of students. We have been running online training in Coachmasters Academy for the last for the last 10 years, but we have never done it so much, so intensively since the start of the pandemic. And what I'd like to do here with this video is to show you that a group of students who has been with us doing an online training for almost 9 months. And I want you to hear their story, what they have to say after doing this training online for 9 months. And let their story inspire you that it is truly possible to create a meaningful training via the virtual platform.
Having been in the corporate world for a very long period of time and in a very process-driven organization, my left brain was actually far more dominant than my right brain, and I was really struggling with that.
I found it very difficult, to be honest.
So it's like a moment I feel like I got it, this is easy. And then the next moment I fell down like, oh my God, I didn't get any.
I'm telling you, there were so many times I wanted to give up.
It took me a really long time to decide whether I wanted to do this, as you can see, right? But to me today, I think the clear answer is an absolute yes.
I've learned a lot, and I have also developed a lot.
Actually, it taught me a lot about unlearning and relearning.
Now I understand what it means and why are they what they are.
I feel like a new superpower.
If you want to get to the end of something, you have to keep stroking.
When I look back, I realized that only through that fall, I was able to climb higher.
I decided that I really want to do coaching for the rest of my life.
I really appreciated everybody's, how we grew together.
And I would not do it without the team.
But I have to say, with the support, all the mentors and the peer group, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
I did not regret it.
I find that a lot of things have changed for me.
It has given me a new way of supporting people in a way that I didn't really realize existed before this.
The one thing that really helped my practice to bring it to the next level is the use of metaphors, and how one metaphor can really create this shift in the client.
And I learn something new all the time, and you get to reapply for the next conversation. And
like the classes and then the peer and then how it's different with the core, right? Like you think the core is enough. Okay, I'm a coach now, I can do it. But the advanced level is something else.
The first level is teaching us what are the right questions. But this level made us really think and reflect, and made us rethink the way we connect and we observe people.
Even though it was long, but I appreciated it because rather than just receiving content, we had enough time to practice.
It made me get comfortable with being uncomfortable and doing things that they are not really, I don't tend to do, let's say.
I want to thank Ben and the faculty for holding such a high standard of learning and very rigorous training.
I can appreciate it because I'm in other learning spaces. And so I can see the difference between this learning space and some of the others. And, I just want to say a little thank you for that.
Because I have seen so many courses, but I have never had this much stretching. I think CMA really challenged us to look at coaching in a completely different way.
It has really given me a lot of confidence. It it sort of taught me a new way of thinking.
And I've been able to bring very life-changing, transformative, emotional change to my organization and to the people around me in ways that I was never expecting I would be able to.
Anybody can be a coach. You just need to commit to it and open up yourself to that.
I feel like I'm at the door and I'm about to, I don't know, step outside or step. I'm trusting that. So thank you.
And right now I can say that coaching truly transforms, and I can see that in the way we touch people's lives. Every session, every touch point makes a whole lot of difference, how people just bloom and like spark.
But I'm going to keep going because I love coaching much more than I thought I would. And I want to help people. And I know that I've been given the gifts to do that. So thank you very much.
But it is worth it.
Well, I'd like to give a round of applause, yay, for all our students. And I hope that the testimony of the students, can be a source of encouragement to you to testify that online training, when done correctly, is as powerful as the in-person training. And my invitation to you is, not to look at the challenges that is posed by the online training, but rather consider what is needed for you right now to make this a powerful engagement. And that's why today webinar that we want to offer you an empirical approach in which you can consider on how you can enhance and engage your students using the psychological capital, the framework from this psychological capital. This is a framework that is designed and developed by Fred Luton, and it is used widely in organization settings to help workers and employees to strive, in their workplace. And the study of these frameworks is broken down into 4 different constructs, which we want to share with you and then to help you to consider how you can use these 4 constructs to create your online learning environment. The key here is learning environment, not techniques. Once the atmosphere is properly set up, the plant will strive and grow. Your job is to consider the conditions to create optimum growth. And thereafter, Sarah will come on to share with you, some of the practical examples that we have gained over our course of our work in delivering online training. And then Alina will offer you 3 principles that you can consider when you're designing an online learning environment that will truly engage your students. Let me return back to the slide deck. And this 4 construct has an acronym, and that is HERO. Okay, I should play the song HERO next time. Okay, so what does the HERO represent here? First, the first alphabet H represents hope. The E, self-efficacy. R is resilient. And finally, O is optimism. So what is hope? Allow me to briefly walk you through. It's an optimistic state of mind based on the expectation of a positive outcome. Self-efficacy, a belief in one's capacity to execute the behavior necessary to achieve results. R, resilience, ability to mentally or emotionally bounce back from adverse situations, like coming into the online class and finish the requirements, and in the midst of that, balancing work and family at the same time. For some of our students, this is considered their adversity. Okay, but being able to bounce back and enjoy the learning it speaks a lot about their resiliency. And then finally is optimism. It is a mental attitude that reflects the belief then the outcome is positive or desirable. So these are the 4 constructs, and I briefly described them to you. The next part of this webinar is going to be shared by Sarah, as I mentioned, and Sarah will walk you through these 4 constructs and show you, how this is practically executed. Executed in some of our online learning sessions. Okay, great, Sarah. Is that a good time for me to now pass it over to you?
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. Great. So as an academy that holds more than 35 online coach trainings per year, we've had a lot of first-hand experience integrating the theory of hero. And we found that this supports our students to stay motivated throughout their learning journey towards becoming a professional coach. Now, today I'm going to share with you some of my own examples and stories of how we go about instilling hope, efficacy of self, resilience, and optimism, and how you can also begin to implement this theory into your online trainings too. So my hope is that these best practices will increase the impact of your online delivery and also your interaction with your students. So let's get started with H for hope. How can you create a sense of hope in your online ecosystem? Well, at Coachmasters Academy, we believe that in order for the overall learning environment to be successful, you need systems. And one of the systems that we've put in place enables our mature students to leave behind their footprints for newer students to follow. And we've been able to implement this in a variety of different platforms. And one of the platforms that we've created, it provides a really unique opportunity for our students to be coached by a more experienced graduate. And we've seen that this experience of being coached by someone slightly further along the track than they are provides this beautiful sense of hope and possibility in our new students. Now, I remember an occasion last year where one of our students, Fran, was telling me about her experience being coached by one of our graduates, Avi. And she started telling me about this profound impact that it had on her. And I don't mean the impact in terms of her as a client, but more the sense of hope that it created within her. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, this particular student was extremely passionate about her coaching, yet she was battling with her own self-confidence at this early stage of her learning. And I recall in our conversation, Fran told me that although she was lacking self-confidence right now, this experience showed her that if he could coach like this, then she had faith that in the near future, when she graduates, she will be able to coach like this too. And, there's such power in social modeling. And at CMA, we truly believe in the importance of having our more mature, our more mature students play a part in instilling this hope and helping guide the next generation of coaches through. So now I'm going to move on to E for efficacy. Now, as coach trainers, we know that if our students have high self-efficacy, they're going to work hard towards achieving their learning goals. And, as an academy that trains over 1,000 coaches online per year, there are a few things that we have come to understand. Now, firstly, we understand that in a virtual platform, Zoom fatigue is real. Second, attention spans are limited. And third, maintaining a captive audience is going to be one of your main challenges. And, you know, this is why you need to be mindful of your instructional design, and the design of your program needs to incorporate a bite-sized approach. Okay, it's just like the old saying goes, you know, don't eat the entire elephant at once, you eat it one bite at a time. So we've adopted this approach and structure in terms of our own virtual classes, and we've done this in a way that includes 15 to 20 minutes of content followed by a breakout room discussion where students get to go into small groups and talk about what they've learned. So why do we do this? Well, we do this because when participants can take one concept and talk about it, it allows them to internalize it so much better than simply giving them an overload of information to think about and try to digest. You know, I actually recall a while back attending a webinar as a participant. And on this webinar, I literally remember the speaker just talking at us for what felt like the entire 90-minute session. And I mean, I did appreciate the content, but in all honesty, it was kind of like an information overload. So, you know, I do remember leaving the webinar feeling a little bit disappointed because we weren't given any time to discuss or talk about the important things that we were learning. And in all honesty, it made it quite difficult to take on the key concepts that he was trying to teach us. So this experience of what not to do really brought home the importance of purposefully creating our instructional design. Okay, so structure your program with bite-sized pieces of content followed by that time for reflection. And, you know, I'm sure you will agree with me that we don't know what we know until we talk about what we know. So providing multiple opportunities for participants to, you know, discuss with each other around what's making sense for them. It creates this wonderful space of reflection for them around the way that they're assimilating the content. Now, the relevance of this to efficacy is that self-efficacy actually stems from a person's ability to self-reflect. So as online facilitators or facilitators of online learners, it's imperative that we don't just focus on learning outcomes, but rather the process of learning itself. Now, to do this, it's a really good idea to provide frequent opportunities for your students to reflect upon their own learning by posing questions for them to discuss in these breakout rooms. So some of the more reflective type questions I might ask, and you can, you know, maybe integrate some of these, are, you know, what are you observing about the way you're learning? Or what techniques have you tried out so far? And what has this experience taught you? Or even what are you noticing about your attitude towards your learning so far? And, you know, I personally just love watching our students' self-efficacy increase as they gain deeper insight into their own understanding through these reflective type questions. See, you might notice that these questions help direct your students' mind away from solely focusing on the content that they're learning, and it actually extends their thinking to reflect upon their own process of learning. So let me move on now to the R of HERO, which stands for resilience. So how can you cultivate resilience in your online learners? Well, I've been training coaches for almost a decade now, and something that has become very clear to me is that when our students learn something new, And often, much to their dismay, they're not going to master it straight away. They're just not. Coaching is a higher order skill, and it takes time, it takes resilience and persistence to successfully build these coaching muscles. So to help our students understand this concept, something that we like to do is preface the importance of muscle building in the very first virtual class to kind of set up the expectation about this from the beginning. And I say to my students that, you know, if they notice that they are struggling or confused or they're finding it hard to maybe execute a certain skill, the struggle that they're experiencing, it leads to learning and is actually a good thing. So we reframe the challenge of learning as muscle building. And, you know, I share that it takes time to translate this knowing into doing. And I like to liken it to the metaphor of working out at the gym. And so I tell them that, you know, they can have the best gym facilities, they can have the best personal trainer, they could be taught the best workout techniques. But reality is, if they want to gain that definition, if they want to build a strong physique, wow, their personal trainer can't go to the gym and sweat it out for them. They are the ones who need to go to the gym and sweat it out in order to build their muscles. And then I say that, you know, the same thing goes here. We're going to teach you the science of transformation. You'll learn cutting-edge coaching principles and a robust framework. And you know, as a faculty, we're going to give you oodles of support. But unfortunately, we can't build their coaching muscles for them. They're the ones who are going to need to put in the practice, go to the gym, sweat it out in order to build these coaching muscles. And, you know, and then I like to say that, you know, muscle building isn't easy. It can hurt. You know, you're literally tearing your muscles so you can grow them bigger and stronger. And then I really hone in and say that, you know, look, there will be times where, you know, you fall, but there will also be times where you'll need to tap into your personal leadership and get back up. And resilience is key in your pursuit to mastering the art and the science of professional coaching. So I found that, you know, by coming back to this metaphor, especially when students are struggling to master a skill or they're feeling challenged in their learning, it's a great way to help them increase their resilience and their ability to bounce back. So I'm lastly now just going to move on to the O of hero, which stands for optimism. Now, how do we instill a sense of optimism in our students? Well, we know that, you know, virtual classes can indeed take a toll on the students' energy. And while we can do a lot to bring up, you know, the positivity or, you know, the sense of positive mindset during class time, the true spirit of optimism depends a lot on what we do outside of the virtual classroom. And at CMA, we have a culture of creating small, meaningful touch points where we reach out to our students individually to check in with them on how their learning is going. And it's kind of like an anchoring net. And to give you an example, last month I received an email from one of our students who reached out with an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the individual attention that he'd received from Joe. And what happened was, as this mature leader, he was feeling rather frustrated with himself. You know, he'd been informally coaching for a long time and, in all honesty, was finding it quite challenging to do things differently to how he'd been doing it. He was in this kind of process of unlearning in order to relearn. And one of our wonderful faculty members, Jo, she noticed that he was experiencing some difficulties. And so she reached out to him personally and gave him a call. And through their discussion, this particular student was able to step back, see things from a bigger picture perspective, and he could see that his failure was just temporary. And it was actually a small thing to master compared to the larger things that he's achieved in his career or his life. And this conversation really enabled him to gain that perspective and see the challenge for what it really was. And, you know, afterwards I spoke with Jo, and she told me that she said to him that, you know, you have the gift of your experience and your wisdom. And over time, these transformative principles will become second nature to you, just like driving a car. And so as you would have seen, you know, in what we just shared, there was this beautiful expression of his gratitude for Jo, but also for the wider team for their support. And he now felt a lot more settled in relation to what was playing in his mind. So, you know, as I draw to the close of my segment, I hope this has sparked some new inspiration for you of how you can integrate Hero to support your students to stay motivated. And I'd just like to leave you with one concluding thought before I pass it to Alina. So, facilitating online training requires us to transcend and go beyond doing facilitation to being a facilitator. And I'm sure that Ben and Alina can agree with me that this being that I talk of requires so much more than just a passion for the profession. It takes a strong commitment to our own personal growth and a commitment to truly step into our personal leadership. So I realized that as a mother of three, that being a coach trainer requires the same sort of passionate guidance and nurturing of being that we give to our own children. And when we can embody this way of being in our facilitation, this work truly does feel like a calling. So I'm now going to hand it over to Alina to conclude our session with some final thoughts. Over to you, Alina.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. That was a beautiful narration of how at Coachmasters Academy, we actually live the principles of online learning, something that we have tried, tested, maybe made a few mistakes, but then made it better and better. Where today, all three of us master coaches of Coachmasters Academy stand with great pride to say that we are today telling you something that you online facilitators, potential online facilitators, would probably like to adopt and adapt so that your online sessions and trainings can become so much more powerful. Engagement. That's the buzzword that all trainers are taught. All Train the Trainer programs is about participation, enthusiasm. But this assumes a completely different challenge when in an online environment. What I'm going to present to you are three principles that we have drawn up to help you quickly remember how Hero can be elegantly manifested using the resources of psychological capital. An important consideration here is that in an online environment, students are less motivated by the trainer. We as trainers are not so important. What is important is individual motivation, which means social presence over teaching presence, which means that while our role is very critical, we need to be a lot more agile in accessing rigor, equity, access to all students, and make the environment or make the participants autonomous in their pursuit of learning. And I know you're thinking this is a big shift into the unknown. Facilitators need to make deliberate decisions on how to be in this space without walls, this virtual space where you're alone sitting in front of your laptops and your gadgets. You have a feeling of independence, and yet we need to nurture a feeling of belonging. And most importantly, share power dynamics intentionally with all who are present. With this in mind, what we have worked out for you or curated for you are 3 principles of online learning. And I have put in an acronym for HERO with an AND. A, principle number 1, talks of activate an atmosphere of learning and fun. Sometimes learning gets complex. Adults may get a little nervous, a little edgy. Assist to replace this stress and nervousness with anticipation and curiosity. Reframe this physical and emotional reactions and present them back as rousing positive energy, hope, optimism that this can produce the desired results that I'm running after. This is self-efficacy in action. Once you are able to take a challenging task and watch as the students are able to slowly maneuver themselves, allow them to think and feel that they can do it, then they go back with this beautiful feeling that all these challenges are actually temporary, situation specific. Optimism embodies a person's ability to understand these events on the lines of, permanence and pervasiveness. It's temporary. It's not all over. It is just for this situation. That's how A will manifest for you as trainers. We move on to the next principle, N. As Sarah explained to you, nurture the learner's self-reflection. Expose learners to situations where they believe they can master whatever is being taught. We all know that we try only those things that we believe we will be successful in. Self-efficacy is breeding the necessary effort to succeed and allow the struggle, validating that this struggling will lead to learning. Adversity, confusion can be converted by the trainer consciously to bouncing back and going to attain success. As trainers, as online facilitators, constantly remember that that's in your control. And the last one, D. Design activities to experience success. Instructional design, creating my module is a big task. But online learners need to constantly work so that learners can see themselves in similar situations and can see themselves being successful. The models need to be perceived as similar to oneself. My classmates, all who are like me, are taking the challenge and are able to move forward. So can I. When they find the willpower, they find the way power. And that's how they kind of create small goals to motivate themselves. As you can see, AND is actually discernibly manifesting HERO. And I really hope that you all will use these 3 principles and remember them as and when required. And here's my concluding thought for you all. Going back to the times when the chalkboard was used in schools. Remember, the teacher used the chalkboard and she used it as a powerful vehicle for instruction. Its efficacy was maximum only when she used the chalkboard at the appropriate times. Today, the same thing is incorporated by technology. But technology is not just navigating through Zoom or Microsoft Rooms. It has to be powered with content, sound and geography, and more than that, cultural awareness and self-awareness. That really goes beyond just handling technology. If we have to make our participants a lot more autonomous, then we need to be able to create the comfort in this space, to create an ecosystem-oriented mindset. You know, you're never going to have the perfect environment to teach every learner. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to wait till tomorrow when there will be a better day. Teach for today in hopes of making a better tomorrow. So, we ensure that while we are far apart, yet we are close together. Thank you very much. I hope A&D will be useful to you. On behalf of my other two participant facilitators, Dr. Ben, Sarah, and me, let me say thank you to you.